Wake up, wake up. Put away the Christmas gifts and bust out some Niner talk. Hope everybody's having a fantastic December the 27th. It's Wake Up, brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. Larry Krueger, Damon Bruce. Let's go.
Indeed, it is Wednesday, December 27th. Excuse me, Wednesday. It's Friday. Jeez, it was Christmas was Wednesday. Today is Friday. Hopefully, since Wednesday, you've had the rest of the week off. It's great to be with you. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. I think Kwanzaa is official. Happy Kwanzaa. That's officially started today. Ralph somewhere celebrating. And it is really, really good to have everyone here. We are brought to you by Sam's Chowder House, indeed. And we got the 49ers coming up on Monday Night Football. Hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas, though. I heard it was a Merry Christmas at the Krueger household. It was a very Merry Christmas at the Bruce household. And it's always a merry day down at the Chowder House. Look at Sam. So you got family that's still in town. They're going to be with you through New Year's. Take a ride down to Half Moon Bay. Go to one of the great spots in all Northern California. Get yourself an absolutely delicious meal. And even if it's a chilly day, look at that paella. That'll warm the heart right there. Thank you so much to Sam's for being a fabulous sponsor this season. I would even say that Sam's has done a better job sponsoring this show, Larry, than the 49ers have done winning football games in this season. So thanks so very much to Sam's. And here we are. And the theme of the entire remaining schedule, Larry, as far as I'm concerned, is just avoiding anything that could possibly damage next season. And we've already seen the 49ers take a step or two in that direction. They have shut down Dre Greenlaw for the remainder of the year, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah. No question about it. And Kyle made that announcement yesterday at his presser, and he's like, yeah, we talked. He understood, and there you go. So right move. It's the right move for Dre's free agency, whether he returns or not. It's the right move for the Niners. There's nothing to play for at this point, as far as I say nothing to play for, but there's not a lot to play for. You don't need Dre Greenlaw back out there. He's already proven what he needs to prove. So good for the Niners to sit out Dre Greenlaw as they get ready for the 13-2 Detroit Lions on Monday night. And
apparently are coming in hot.
This game doesn't mean anything, Damon, to Detroit, but don't tell Dan Campbell that. He didn't want to hear anything about that. And though that was the line of questioning at his presser, and here it is. And we'll play it for you right here. Basically, the questions are you guys going to bring it in this game, because it doesn't mean a whole lot? And here's Campbell with no ambiguity at all.
That up really quickly. Just in the scenario where Minnesota beats Green Bay, suddenly there's nothing you can do with your seeding that game. It all will come down to Week 18. So have to win is I'm just curious your explanation there. Like, how do you maintain that full bore mindset where maybe that game doesn't matter in the standings?
Yeah, I'll make this easy for everybody. That way all the critics can jump out and start attacking. But that way you don't have to debate them anymore. We're bringing everything we got to this game, and we are playing, and I don't care what it looks like and where it's at or who's this, who's that. We're going out to play and win this game out on the West Coast. So there you go.
Just to piggyback off the earlier question, though, you do mention the last year's loss, and obviously the guys who were there, who experienced that, walked off that field. Is there added motivation? I mean, it's not the most important thing, but is there something there?
Look, anytime we lose, the thought of losing is going to motivate you to not want to lose again, particularly with where you were at. And so that's always going to bring its own level of motivation to it. But it's also, this is where we're at in the season. We know we need another win. We understand where we're at in division and the NFC. And so I think it's all encompassing, and look, most importantly, it's the next one. It's the next one in front of us.
There you go. A little bit of Dan Campbell. It's like if there was honesty involved there, it would be something along the lines of, yeah, you know what? We're going to bring it. And hopefully I won't gag on myself like I did last time we were there, because I'm single-handedly cost us a trip to the Super Bowl. But I don't want to see that happen. I'll say this in this game. if I'm Nick Sorensen's defense, you better go into that game with your eyes wide open or your ass is going to get embarrassed. All right. And I don't want to be embarrassed adjacently to your embarrassment. I don't want to be embarrassed. And the coaches don't want to be embarrassed. The players, they don't want to be embarrassed. The fans don't want to be embarrassed. This game has the potential on national TV for the very proud, iconic 49er franchise to get thoroughly fucking embarrassed. So let's avoid that. You know what I mean? Let's have a game plan that's sober and serious and real, and let's acknowledge that they can embarrass us and play complimentary football, run the heck out of it, keep Detroit's, team on the sidelines. No more bullshit like last week where they came out, they had a couple plays, they got the 3rd and 1, and their balls crawled up Shanahan's ass, and he decided he can't go for it, even though he's out of it, and they punt on 4th and 1. So it's like, you know what? I'm so sick of watching this ballless 49er offense, play the way they play. Start playing big boy football. I mean, seriously, stop, cowering. And, literally, if they go into this game and get thoroughly embarrassed and they run that same stupid plan of like, we're going to give up on 3rd down and we're really going to give up on 4th down. We're not even going to try, even though you have 3 downs and then you punt on 4th down. We're not even going to go for 3 downs because when we get to 3rd down and it's 3rd and long, we're just going to give away run so we can then set up a punt. I mean, it's like, if they're going to play that kind of loser football, they're going to get their doors blown off, and it's going to be a memorable night for everybody except for them.
And already what the talking point would be through any of those punting in bad situations. Shanahan would then wrap it and saying, hey, I'm just trying to play the situation. There's a lot of games still left, and we don't want to make a mistake in this moment that could tip the field and blah, 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 blah. Here's the situation, Kyle. Nothing left to lose. I'd send the punter home for the rest of the goddamn year. I wouldn't punt the remainder of this season if I'm the 49ers. I am playing nothing left to lose. We're here to work on stuff. Let's see what Tanner Mordecai's got level of football. Again, if
this is what the league thinks of your chances. This is what the league thinks of your chances.
There you go. That's about right.
There you go. Everybody has the Lions beating you. Almost everybody has them scoring 30 in the process. Only a few of these games. Well, I guess this is the NFL Network, so most of these people are kind, but most of these are probably closer than it potentially could be. There is embarrassment potential in this game, and the mindset's got to be don't get fucking embarrassed.
Yeah,
that's got to be the mindset.
And look, there's been an awful lot of embarrassing football played already over the holidays, right? The Chiefs took the Steelers apart, and the Steelers are not in an embarrassing season type of situation. Ravens destroy the Texans, who manage only a safety against them. The Seahawks and Chicago Bears both embarrassed themselves as a franchise and the concept of the sport of football all at the same time. That was a dreadful football game. So it's been nothing but bad football pretty much throughout this week so far. But the 49ers, again, there's nothing left to lose. There's no reason not to run that flea flicker that you've been sitting on the whole damn year. Like let it go. Let it go. If you're going to put Brock out there, let it go. I wouldn't put Brock out there. Again, I would not have George Kittle play in this game. I would not have Brock Purdy play in this game or next. I know. And
I don't know why. We should talk about that. We should talk about that whole philosophy. Why? Okay, Shanahan's thing is like, I mean, he almost got downright ugly the last couple of days talking about this. He's like, you get 17 checks. We need to play better and win. If you don't have the motivation, you're closer to the end than you are to the beginning. I mean, he just dropped bombs in the presser the other day. It was like, it was really. So give you an example of what we're talking about.
That's how coaches have to think. That's how a coach.
He's like, it's week 17. He's like, this is your job. Okay. If you're asking why you have, what's your motivation and this and that, then you're probably closer to the end than the beginning. And it's, it's like, and I get it. But how about this? How about take all the players that you potentially, I mean, what are you going to get out of this game? Nothing. And what are you going to give to this game if you lose Brock Purdy or George Kittle and you don't have them at the beginning of 2021 or at all in 2021? If right now anybody suffers an injury that would be a season-long injury, they're going to miss next season. So why would you take that chance when you've already been a colossal disappointment this season? Why would you take a chance on next season also being a colossal disappointment by playing guys in meaningless football games in week 6, 17, and 18? I'm not getting that. I understand, he's like, hey, man, I got a football team to run here. Yeah, it's called your backups. Play Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah.
Play Josh Dobbs. Play Brandon Allen. Play Mason Pline. Play Eric Saubert. Play Braden Willis. Play other guys, Kyle. You don't have to put Brock Purdy out there. You don't have to put George Kittle out there, but no, he's going to put him out there. What if one of these guys tears an ACL? They're done for next year, and so are the Niners.
Let's be completely honest.
Kyle. So this job could be on the line in this decision to play guys in the last couple of games here. You're absolutely good.
Let's say the 49ers are down 28-3 at halftime to the Detroit Lions. If Dan Campbell isn't pulling Jared Goff and his important players in that moment, he deserves to lose in the first round. Okay? There is a time to, whip it out and say all the big boy football things. Here's the thing. You want to talk about you get all these paychecks in a year, you get 17 of these. Where was that mindset back in week 2? Where was that mindset coming into this season as you stumbled and bumbled your way into a season due to a choppy offseason, most choppy offseason possibly imaginable? Like saving your vim and vigor for the last 2 games that mean nothing is total empty coach speak bullshit, and mostly why you don't catch me at press conferences, Larry, because they're a waste of time for the most part. Every now and then you get a great morsel, but it's a level of bullshit that completely doesn't admit the reality of your situation. The year is over. Maybe not mathematically, but technically the year is over. And Kyle, John Lynch, come on in. Sit down, boys. Pull up a seat and listen to Uncle Damon. You could go 17-0 in the next regular season. And if you don't win the playoffs, you're a bunch of fucking losers. You have no more to prove in the regular season. You can prove nothing. The regular season is no longer a proving ground for this regime. Regular season success is the equivalent of a yawn in San Francisco. No one gives a shit. We're not here for it. It's win a Super Bowl or you just wasted all of our time. So, I understand why a coach has to say these things publicly, but he's also completely full of shit. And we know it. And Larry, I think you know it. This is a bumper sticker on a car that's traveling nowhere. And look, Kyle's the GM. He is it's his show. It's his operation. If you really think as a GM that and John Lynch agrees with you that risking Brock Purdy's week 1 health next season over the final meaningless 8 quarters of football that remain in this season, like, you guys are just too dumb to be working here. I need someone who's got a bigger picture happening at all times. I think bigger picture thinking means you get into that depth chart a little bit earlier in the season and you don't wear guys out in the season. Bigger picture thinking seems to be available throughout the entire year, but you guys, you get lost on the narrow details, and it's not big picture thinking at times. Now it's time to think big picture for real, and you're telling me, no, we're drawing the line in the sand. Battle time. Here come the Lions.
Well, no, the bottom line is you play to win the Super Bowl, and when you can't win the Super Bowl, you play to win the next Super Bowl, and that's the way it's done, and that's the way I would do it. You owe nothing to anybody other than to try to win the Super Bowl. Try to win the Super Bowl. And you can't win the Super Bowl this year. So It's all about next year's Super Bowl. So Brock Purdy playing the final 2 games behind a shitty offensive line is probably not smart, but we've made a lot of fucking stupid decisions this year. From, personnel decisions, cutting Sam Womack. That was fucking brilliant. They've made so many bad decisions this year. I mean, to sit there and fuck around with Ayuk all summer long. And then, then you bring McCaffrey back. You don't just play him a little bit. You got to play him like he hasn't never left. And you have to ignore the guys that you had. So in one big swoop, you iced your current young running backs, and only to see them do nothing anymore after that. And then you overplayed your injured running back, getting him out for the year. I mean, they've fucked this thing up so many ways this year. They talked endlessly about not needing an offensive lineman, how they don't need, they celebrated Ricky Pearsall over Zach Frazier. I mean, fucking idiots. I mean, absolute fucking idiots. Zach Frazier is exactly what they needed. And instead, they're such fucking idiots. They draft a fucking soft wide receiver and watch him proceed to do absolutely jack shit as the center becomes a dominant center and is probably going to be a multiple Pro Bowl year center for the Steelers. And now guess what you're looking for? You have Brian Baldinger on Twitter saying Brendel fucking sucks and you need a center. So it's like, okay, so 1 year you could have had a great center. Heck, you could have had the AK here says taking Bo Limmer in the 6th round was there for the Niners. Another guy that I was like, hey, go get Bo Limmer. No. Did this John Lynch and the personnel department do it? No. Les Snead did, and Bo Limmer's played really well for the Rams this year out of the 6th round. So, and here the Niners are just getting absolutely destroyed at the point of attack. Kyle Shanahan doesn't even try to coach like the way a normal fucking coach would coach anymore because he's so much coaching around his deficient fucking offensive line. So they get to 1st and goal from the 4. They pass it through a couple times, and then it's time to punt or time to kick a field goal. And that kind of loser football, the league is too good. The Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Texans, there's a few other teams. They're all too good to not be able to play any situational football and beat them. You're not going to beat them. You're never going to beat them because you're never going to win close games. You're never going to win close games because you can't play situational football. So until you start coaching your football team and playing smart football and running the ball inside the 5-yard line. If you can't run inside the 5, you can't win the Super Bowl. The 49ers can't run inside the 5. They can't win the Super Bowl. And, no team ever that can't run inside the 5 will ever win a Super Bowl.
Larry,
So
you know what I would like.
It's absolutely embarrassing watching this team right now.
You know what I would like to see unearthed by the dork guy, Malort guy who count, snap counts and players and situational things. And, we're going to need Pro Football Focus's computer to pull this one out here. I'm going to need the deepest part of Matt Barrow's snap count notebook to pull this out for me. I would like to know how many goal to go situations that included a formation that had Kyle Juszczyk in it. Because this team, has the most highly paid fullback in all of football who's done nothing all year long. And I'm willing to bet that Kyle Juszczyk has played the minority of goal-to-go situations rather than the majority. And again, if you got a fullback that you're not playing in basically all your end goal situations, why even carry a fullback on your roster? So,
yeah, I mean, he needs to go.
He does.
What a useless football player he is. He makes a ton. You can't use him as a lead blocker. He doesn't. You're shitty in short yardage. You're horrible on the goal line, and you're paying a fullback millions of dollars. I mean, right there. If that's all I knew, if I don't know the fullback's name, I don't know what he does or anything. You're paying a fullback tons, and you're awful in short yardage.
Right. That right there means it's not working. And again, to get
think that over for a second.
Yeah.
That says you're fucked up.
To get back to how they're treating the remainder of this season, why don't you play your starters in the preseason games? because they will not affect the regular season. We have reached the point in the regular season where regular season games no longer affect the regular season, which means the season's over, which means these final 2 games should be treated as bonus preseason. These 2 games should be the first 2 preseason games of the 2025 49ers season. That's the way that they should approach this. That's the intelligent way to approach it. And also, an intelligent way to approach it is you never really say that out loud at the press conference, but then it's all sort of revealed when, the game kicks off and you're like, oh, that is Tanner Mordecai getting the start tonight. Oh, that George Kittle's not playing tonight. And neither's Fred Warner. And Nick Bosa's not playing. And they're going to let George Kittle maybe get his 40 yards to get him 1,000 yards on this, whatever he's got left to get to 1,000 yards. And then they're going to say, George, now you sit down the remainder of the year. You don't need to say it out loud. Just do it. Just do it. You can say all the tough guy talk, like here, Shanahan, just this week, right? I just saw, I believe in Jake Moody. It's been funny for him. It's been funny for him since coming back from the high ankle sprain. And you know what? Look, I'll give him that a little bit. Maybe there is a little something there, which means you probably shouldn't have gone back to him and you should have stayed with either the kicker he signs off the street. But Kyle,
they rushed back to him. They got rid of a guy who was 8 for 8. They rushed back to him.
Kyle has to say out loud, yes, we believe in the guy and we're going to bring him back. It's all business as usual until things become unusual. I remember he doesn't. Wait a second.
Wait. You can say you believe in a guy. You don't have to say we're bringing him back. That part is that part.
You don't need to nuke, but you don't need to nuke the guy in the press conference. You don't need to nuke.
No, but you don't. But you don't have. You're right. That is exactly what he said. He said we like the guy and we're bringing him back. He didn't have to say we're bringing him back. I mean, that's basically he basically told a story for people who missed this. Kyle in his presser yesterday told a story about how one time they had a kicker and in one of his previous stops and they cut that kicker. And then within a year or two, he was the highest paid kicker in football. And they're afraid to cut Jake Moody because he might succeed somewhere else. So, I mean, we did get some revelations from Kyle this week about the roster. Greenlaw is not going to play. Trent Williams are not going to play. Lynch has stated that they'd like to re-sign Greenlaw. Kyle came out and said that Purdy is going to play the final 2 games of the year, despite the fact that
Buster Posey not playing for the Niners this weekend. No,
haven't seen Tanner Mordecai, but Purdy's going to play. So Purdy is going to play, even though so that's basically saying like Tanner Mordecai sucks. He's not even worth playing. So that's Kyle's statement that Mordecai's not worth playing. So he's going to go with Purdy the last couple games.
Bad move. Behind
a bad offensive line, because the offensive line's bad, but now it's not going to have Trent. Jalen Moore out for the year. So you don't have your starting left tackle. You don't have your backup left tackle. You're going to go with Austin Pleasance, who's a pleasant guy, but he's not. I'm sure Brock's not going to feel that way as defensive ends are whipping by this guy. Last I checked, I think Zadarius Smith is on the Lions. He's going to beat Pleasance or whoever the Niners backup third string week 16, 17 offensive tackle and potentially ruin your 2025, Kyle. And if you guess what, you are rolling pretty fat. But if you lose this year, and you did, and then follow it up with a lose in 2025, which you will if Brock Purdy isn't on your team, you're probably done. You're probably cooked in San Francisco. So if that's the game plan, way to go. If that's not the game plan, you might want to reassess. You might want to say, hey, you know what? We'll play Purdy for a couple series in each of these games and then play, I don't know, our backup quarterbacks behind our backup offensive line. I mean, where's the consistency? In the preseason in past years, they're like, well, the starting quarterback, Jimmy, Brock, whoever it is, will come out when Trent comes out. Okay, in other words, you're not going to put your starting quarterback behind a backup left tackle. I get it. It makes sense. Well, if you're not willing to do that in training camp, why would you do it in week 7 when you literally, at the beginning of the year, I mean, there's at least you can get ready for this year. You're gaining nothing out of week 17, week 18, but you're still going to play your starting quarterback. And it's like, it's seriously, is it in his best interest? Is it in the team's best interest? I would love to know how his agent feels about that. What if Brock Purdy suffers a serious injury in week 17 because he's playing behind Austin Pleasance?
It's
Then
it's
what?
almost it's
And
it's
to what
almost
end?
it's
It's
almost
it's like wait one second. It's like betting $250 to win $5.
yeah.
What are you doing? If you showed me a ticket that, hey man, I bet $250 on the Niners today. What do you win, Krug? Oh, I win $5.65. You're a goddamn fool, right? And I would deserve that. I am a fool. Your risk reward has to align in life. If you're risking more than there is to be rewarded, you're a fucking idiot. So I don't know what to say about playing Brock Purdy behind third string offensive lineman other than it's fucking stupid. And they could get burned in a big, bad way.
It's almost as if, you know, I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and there's times where, you know, the hard lesson learned is a good one. Like, I'm sorry that you had to hurt yourself. I'm sorry you had to touch that hot pan to learn that the pan is hot, but I guarantee you don't do that again. Like, no one's wishing anyone gets hurt, but it would be a good lesson, right? We're at our third string left tackle. I'm having my starting quarterback we're considering paying $60 million to in a meaningless game go out there and play like you. The guy almost deserves to get hurt to teach the coach a lesson. I mean, it is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, I see there's tough guys in the chat saying, no. You know, like you don't turn, you play, blah, 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 blah. No, you can't pretend you're a GM in the offseason and then act like some dipshit fan who doesn't know what he's talking about here in the regular season.
It's about risk reward. I mean, it's all about what are you risking and what's your reward. If your reward's great, then risk a lot. If your reward is nothing, risk nothing. I mean, it's not that complicated. It really is not that complicated. And don't tell me that he's going to somehow lose his position on the team or voice in the locker room if they decided to sit him down. You're sitting down Trent Williams.
Well,
Trent Williams could go. You're not playing Trent. Why is Trent not going?
It's not like Purdy's raising his hand saying, "Coach, I don't want to play these last 2 games." You take you take the helmet from the player. You take the helmet from the player. That's why I'd say Fred Warner. I know you want to go out there, Fred Warner. I saw your quote about how you're a football player. You want to go play football, and I love you for that. Fred, I'm pretty sure that you would play without pads if they let you. This is why you take the player's helmet. You remove the decision from the player. Why do they have independent doctors evaluating concussions? Because you remove the decision from the player. You remove it from the team. If John Lynch is really this team's general manager, he sort of is, but it's Kyle. It's all Kyle. The whole thing.
Wait a second. We have another person who doesn't understand how to read stats. Great 1765. Purdy is the 5th most protected quarterback in the pocket. No, he's not. If you're looking at, he may hold the ball for the 5th most amount of time, but there's a big difference between the 5th most protected and
he's holding on to the ball too long, which was part of the problem of this year.
Well, he's holding on the ball a ton because he's running for his life and he's running to pass. But here's the stat. The 49ers offensive line is well below average. The Niners offensive line has allowed the 7th highest quarterback pressure rate in the NFL, 37.8%. They're not a top 5 O-line. They're a bottom 10 O-line. That's what they are. They're allowing a pressure rate, the 7th highest rate in the entire league. It's next gen stats, 37.8%. That's where they really rank. That's the real offensive line stat, not how long does the quarterback hold the ball, because the quarterback can hold the ball for an eternity. It doesn't mean that the offensive line's good if the quarterback's doing figure eights and running from sideline to sideline, which we've literally seen Brock Purdy do this year. So it's not about how long you hold the football.
Even if the person who just said 5th most protected quarterback, even if you were right, that offensive line that produced that stat that you're touting ain't going to be playing Monday night.
Right. There's no Trent Williams.
Yeah. So there you go. Like, things change. The number that you think means a lot yesterday means really nothing today. So I would exercise an abundance of caution. And if they don't and get burned by it, I will burn your stadium and careers to the ground with my voice.
You don't even have to. They'll be done. I mean, if the 49ers gag next year and suck because Brock Purdy can't play because he was injured in garbage time this year,
everyone should be fired immediately.
Well, they will be fired immediately. I mean, it won't even. Well, they won't even. It won't even be. They won't even need us to push for it. The fans will be so outraged that they'll push for it enough, and that'll be it. Plus, the standards are really high here, and then you can't sit there and be like, well, you know what, we blew last year, even though we were the Super Bowl favorite, we didn't make the playoffs, and then this year we also sucked, and then there's not going to be any repercussions. No, there'll be repercussions. You get, these guys are well thought of, but they're not, it's not like, oh my God, you can't possibly criticize. One more here before we move off of Coach Yak's Twitter, because he had a pretty good one. This is pretty good. I'm going to share the screen on this one. This is James Jones. James Jones talking about Debo or talking about Greenlaw. And listen to this. This is pretty interesting. Little breakdown here. He sounds like he's ripping Green. He's totally right. I mean, seriously, literally everything James Jones just said there was totally right. One, those stats are absolutely amazing, and let's repeat them. 80 yards and 0 points against Kansas City in last year's Super Bowl when he was on the field. When he was off the field, 25 points allowed, 429 yards allowed. I mean, and it's not one of those, oh, yeah, but that's, stats lie and liars use statistics. If you watch the game, you saw Mahomes come off the field, and if you heard the live mic the week after it was released 1 week later, Mahomes comes off the field. He's like, guys, we got to ratchet up the intensity. They're way more intense than us. And he was talking specifically about Dre Greenlaw. And the Chiefs, of course, we know, won that game. The other stat in this thing is, 44-19 with him, 16-19 without him. It's a totally, I mean, that is something else. And also, they are not the same team when he's not on the field. I mean, you need to pay this guy. This is your tone setter extraordinaire. Now, Lynch has made it clear they love him. Of course they do. And they want him back. Of course they do. The question is, can they afford him in a year when they're paying their quarterback? And I know the propensity most people are like, hey, give this guy a 1 year deal. But you know what? He's too good to give a 1 year deal to. Somebody's going to say, here's a multiple year deal. So I don't know how he comes back, but man, if he doesn't come back, it's going to be a huge, I'll say this. I don't think the 49ers will win without Dre Greenlaw if he walks out of this room, I don't think they're going to win probably for the foreseeable future. Here's why. When I asked Demo Lenore the other day, I'm like, hey, Greenlaw, what'd you think? I mean, I'm just like, it was after that first game back, and I was just asking him just an open-ended question. Hey, what was his impact like? What was it? What did you think of the way he played? It was kind of open-ended. Well, what did he say? What it was the first thing he said is, man, we got to get that guy signed. He didn't say he was out there. He was amazing. Man, right. I love the guy. Man, he was like, man, we got to get that guy signed. Because he knows.
Look,
he knows. And they do. So if they get him signed, they got a shot. If they don't get him signed, the guy, what you have to have more than anything is the belief. And the players don't have the belief right now. And they won't have the belief if Dre's somewhere else. I guarantee you that.
There's, I can't remember the comedian. Maybe it was Cedric the Entertainer. I don't know. This is like a Kings of Comedy thing. But, there's a joke that I'll dance around to edit it just a little bit. But it basically says there's two types of people in the world. People who walk into a place just hoping nothing pops off. Nice, calm, quiet night. And then there's people who literally go out waiting for shit to pop off. They can't wait to squabble. That's Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw is the likes to fight guy. And every single football team needs the likes to fight guy on their football team. He's got the squabbles in him, man. He's born with it, born with a mean streak. Fred Warner is a hell of a player, an incredible athlete, a massive IQ and student of the game. He understands angles. He understands everything. He plays with violence, and I am not insulting Fred Warner in any way, shape, or possible. He could start for your favorite football team, and you'd be better off at linebacker than you probably are with the guy you got. He is future Hall of Fame level talent, Fred Warner. He's not likes to fight guy. That's Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw is here to fucking punch your mother in the face.
Fred Warner is so proud, Damon, that if you walked up to him and said, ripped his game, he would fight back. He would not like that. But if you came up to him and said, Dre Greenlaw is the best linebacker on this linebacking core, he would shrug, smile, and walk. He might agree, he might disagree, but even if he disagreed, he has such respect for Dre. They're such equals in Fred's mind that he wouldn't question that. He'd be like, all right, I can see it. I can see why you love him.
When I watch Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw play together, it's the only thing I've seen in a 49er uniform that ever reminded me of Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. And Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman were probably the two best, most complimentary football players I've ever seen on the 49ers outside of Justin Smith and Alden Smith. Those guys in tandem wreck shop together. Yeah. And look, the 49ers seem to be aware of this, and that's why they're shutting Dre Greenlaw down. And I'll tell you, to shut him down, I hope that they said, and this will help us give you the deal you want. What would prevent us from giving the deal to you that you want is should you go out there in meaningless football games and hurt yourself. And that same train of thought should be applied to Brock Purdy.
Exactly. Could not have said that cleaner or more spot on than that. And it goes for Trent, and it goes for anybody who is a difference making. Let's just look at it this way. What's the barometer? The barometer, as far as, because you can't do this for every player. Like, I know there'll be people in the chat be like, hey guys, this is football, and you can't do this for everybody. I get it. You're right. It is football, and you can't do it for everybody. So what's the barometer? Who gets to sit? Who doesn't get to sit? Here's the measuring stick. If the spread will change because of you not being there in week 1, then you can't play in week 16 or 17. If the spread won't change if you're there or not there, knock yourself out, buddy. Play your ass off. Go out there and have fun. But guess what? If there's no Brock Purdy in week 1, the spread will not be the same. If there's no Fred Warner in week 1, the spread will not be the same. If there's no Trent Williams in week 1, the spread will not be the same. And that's the barometer for sitting in week 16 or 17 and 18. What do you think?
And I would also, I'd extend it to Deebo Samuel, because Deebo Samuel's future on this team, I know that both of us think he is returning, but it could be in flux. The last thing you want is an injury to Deebo Samuel that would tie your hands from exercising any and all options. So I would sit him, it's so funny when people are asking for more. Teams always pivot to like the theory of asset protection. And then when people like you and me are saying it's time to protect your assets, now we got, this is how we play. No, be careful. Be careful. What you should have done was put yourself in a position to be resting guys at this point in the season for the playoffs. But unfortunately, your big boy, we get paid every fucking week didn't apply to week 2 or 3 or whatever happened on the way to your disappointing start. And, there's an awful lot of talking out both sides of a mouth in sports. And that's what's going on here. And it does, like, I get why they have to say it. I get why they have to say it publicly, but nothing would bring a bigger smile to my face than seeing, Monday Night Football intro, come play through, ball is kicked off, and here comes Josh Dobbs jogging out there. Like, you don't want to play Tanner Mordecai? Fine. Then play Josh Dobbs. You don't want to play Josh Dobbs? Fine. But play Brandon Allen. Don't want to play Brandon Allen? Play Larry Krueger. Play Kevin Krueger. Play Lee Hammer. I don't give a shit.
And then what is, if you're playing Brock Purdy, and they are, what are you saying? Are you saying that Brock needs to show us more before here? Because he's on the verge of an extension. So, I mean, you guys have stated, we're not stating it, the Niners have stated, we want to extend this quarterback this offseason. So you want to extend him this offseason. You're telling everybody and their brother from Diana Rossini right on down that Brock's the guy, Brock's your guy. Lynch went on KMBR. Brock's the guy, Brock's our guy. Fine. If he's your guy, why would you play him in week 18 with nothing on the line when you have other quarterbacks? And I would claim another quarterback that I would like to find out about. I'll say this. I mean, what if Brock Purdy never came in for Jimmy Garoppolo and they didn't find out that Brock Purdy was better than Jimmy Garoppolo for like a year and a half after that? Wouldn't you be sitting there going, man, we wasted so much time with Jimmy Garoppolo. We actually had a better guy sitting right here. Or what if Brock never played and you lost him and somehow he went somewhere else and played great? And then how stupid would you look that you never gave him a shot? Well, if Jimmy doesn't go down, does he ever get his shot? I mean, we Shanahan likes to talk about, hey, I knew in camp if you really knew in camp, why did it take to week 13 to put him on the field? If you knew in camp he was some fucking awesome quarterback, how come he didn't play until after Trey Lance died and Garoppolo died? I mean, it's like some of these things don't make any sense. It's like, do you really want us to believe that? So you loved Brock Purdy and saw this super special player, but it just chose not to play him until week 13 in a sport where winning is everything. And you just said, fuck it. Nah, we got a better guy at the most important position. We're not going to play him.
Not right. Yeah.
Not yet.
Don't want to step on anybody's toes.
So sorry if I don't bow to, these football gods who know all. They know everything. Who's to say that Tanner Mordecai is not their best quarterback? Who knows? He hasn't played. What we do know is he's got the strongest arm and the best foot speed of anybody, and he played major college football and played for a number of years and had two really monster statistical years playing for SMU. That's all we really know. What if Tanner Mordecai comes in, I don't know, and plays well?
Let's start with this.
Then what?
This. Why wouldn't Jacob Cowing get every single from snap, wide receiver snap from scrimmage that you could get in the next 2 weeks? You either believe that this guy is going to become a player, or you are so thoroughly convinced that you drafted a bum that you can't get him out there. Again, it is either an indictment on your drafting process or how you coach if this guy can't get snaps from scrimmage in week 17.
Jake Hutchinson asked Kyle Shanahan yesterday during the press conference, in these last 2 weeks, are you going to do some experimenting? Are you going to try some things you haven't done before? He's like, no, I'm not.
Well, then maybe
awesome.
So
he just same old.
You can say that in the press conference, but then if he actually does something different, I'm fine with it. But if he really believes that, if Kyle's out there on 4th and 2, kicking 46-yard field goals, why? What are you doing? Like, it just what
do you think of this What do you think of this chat? Not a super, but Jordy. They want Purdy to play bad in the last 2 weeks to have more leverage on him in contract negotiations. You know what? This sounds on the surface. On the surface, this seems over the top negative, over the top, conspiracy theory. But why would you give me the real reason? If Jordy A here is wrong, okay, what is the real reason that Brock Purdy is playing at the end of the year when there's nothing to be gained? And he's not playing with, you can say, oh, nothing to be gained. Krug, you always could be something to be gained. Yeah, if Ayuk and Debo and Pearsall and Kittle and everybody was fully healthy and everything, yeah, you could get some reps with those guys. But there is no Ayuk. There is no CMC. Debo may or may not even be here. Pearsall, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say some reps with Pearsall would help. But once again, you're playing your starting quarterback where he could get seriously hurt behind not just your backup offensive line, your backup offensive line. Guys that weren't in the building literally on Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't in the building on Thanksgiving, but today you're going to risk the future of your franchise against the Detroit Lions and the Arizona Cardinals defensive line. Because what? Is there a reason? What? I mean, seriously, somebody has to explain this to me. What would be the reason that you would play your starting quarterback behind a horrible backup offensive lineman that nobody had playing at all 3 weeks ago? Why?
Sometimes you got to abandon a battle to win a war. There's only one war to be fought, and it's for a Lombardi trophy. Everything is just a battle before that, and sometimes you got to retreat to advance.
But do you believe Jordy's right there, Damon?
Well, if that were right, everyone involved needs to not just be fired, they need to be fired into the sun. That is the most negligent with a young man's career, sinister way of going about trying to save yourself a little money in a contract that could ever be. If you are setting your player up to fail to get a better price point, don't talk to me about football integrity ever again, because you have none.
Right.
You have none. So first of all, I don't believe John Lynch would do that. I don't like everything John Lynch does. I think everything John Lynch does is with all best football intentions in mind. So I just don't, I don't think that that's true. I don't think that that's true. But, you have no leverage really on Purdy. He's a 24-year-old who's won a conference. He's won multiple playoff games. He's hitting free agents. Here's the thing. If you really want leverage on Purdy, say play your final year and then we're going to franchise you. Like, you want to be a dick about it. There's a way to do that without risking his health.
But the thing is, what that would be stupid though, don't you think? Because you're not gonna have an angry quarterback. Our quarterback is, we're fucking our quarterback over on his contract. I mean, I wouldn't even want the quarterback holding out. I can't even remember ever. Can you remember ever an NFL team winning a Super Bowl where they're sitting there on Super Bowl Sunday and they're like, this season did not start well for this quarterback because he held out? No, it's never happened. No quarterback's ever held out and gone to the Super Bowl in the same year. So it's like, that's, come on. Invader 49ers says play Mordecai. Why? Because you don't know if he's good.
Right.
Because he's a quarterback on your roster. It's like the same thing. I could have said the same thing about Brock the year that he was a rookie. Why am I playing Brock Purdy? Why would I play? I've got Jimmy Garoppolo. I've got Trey Lance. I've got Nate Sudfeld. Why am I playing Brock Purdy? Well, guess what? I guess the answer would have been because Brock Purdy's better than those guys. But we couldn't find that out until he played. And we're not going to find out if Tanner Mordecai can play until, I don't know, he plays. And it's a lot of talk about a backup quarterback. But what the heck? What is to be gained in week 17 and week 18? I'd love to know. Other than let's find out about everybody on the roster. But it doesn't sound like we're going to do that. And I guess it's a little of an overblown point because for the most part, like all the young defensive players have all played already. Evan Anderson, Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, Tatum Bethune had his practice window opened. So you'll see Tatum Bethune out there. He's maybe one young guy who will get some field time in the final couple games that hasn't up till now or hasn't gotten a lot.
If Abinaconda is not dressed and playing in this game, why?
Yeah, I agree. Abinaconda, come on, seriously. Give me some Abinaconda.
Find out what you got. If you
4.3 speed.
If you run into him and he plays well, then walking away from Elijah Mitchell will be a lot easier to do. And you won't have to blow another draft pick on your next version of Trey Sermon. Come on. So, see if you got an NFL player on your NFL team for the next NFL season.
Yeah.
Crazy concept. I really know. Hey, hit like and subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. I understand it's the holidays still, and a lot of people aren't back at work. They're not on their normal schedule. I mean, my God, had Kevin not sent a text to me late last night saying we're all set for tomorrow. I lost my spot in the week. Like I said, I began the show saying, welcome. It's Wednesday, December 27th. Like, I'm all turned around because of the holidays. Everybody's on a funny schedule. Thanks for being here. Hit like and subscribe. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you to Sam's Chowder House for sponsoring everything as always. There's one other thing, because I think we have beat how they should approach this game. We have beaten that dead horse for an hour now.
We wouldn't have to if it wasn't obvious that they were going to play all the same guys. I mean, it's just going to be more of the same. And I guess that's fine in most areas. To me, it's just not. It's to me, you got to come out of this year and know what cowing is. You got to come out of this year. You got to know what Pearsall is. You got to come out of this year. You got to know if Mordecai is a player. You got to know these things, because you're putting together your roster next year, and what caliber of player these guys are will determine what the rest of that room looks like position-wise, especially at quarterback. I mean, let's just say this. If Tanner Mordecai came out in week 17 or 18 against the Cardinals or Lions and played even just a half, but played great, couple touchdowns, ran around, looked good, you could feel better about saying, hey, Brandon Allen, tuck tail. Hey, Josh Dobbs, beat it. We're going with Tanner Mordecai as the number 2, and we're going to draft somebody as number 3. We're going to go with the super cheap quarterback room. Well, you can go with the super cheap quarterback room if you feel like Mordecai is ready to step in and do at least what Dobbs or Allen were going to do, which I think is very, very possible, very reasonable expectation. But that's value. That's value on next season. So that's something that will help you win next season. So I have put together a couple of thoughts on my plan to rebuild the 49ers, and I'll share with you a couple of thoughts before we get out of here.
All right, and let me share with you my plan to not rebuild the 49ers before you do that. Hold on. Okay, here we go. I saw a headline that said, the Cleveland Browns could keep the 49ers from getting involved with Kirk Cousins.
Great. Do it.
Eyeballs you should not need the Cleveland Browns to know that now is not the time to be in the Kirk Cousins business. Are we out of our minds? Are we that stuck on one topic? Kirk Cousins, let me say this right now so everyone understands what this is. Kirk Cousins will never in his career be at Levi's Stadium unless he's here with a visiting team or buys a ticket. He is not going to be playing for Kyle Shanahan. That will not happen. That is not going to happen. And if it does, again, a rocket ship into the sun for Kyle Shanahan. Firing is not enough for Kyle if he were to get into the Kirk Cousins business at the very last minute. Basically, getting involved in Kirk Cousins right now would be the equivalent of saying we're playing to win in week 17 in a lost season.
Well, I'd be careful what you say there, because you could definitely see Kirk Cousins as a backup.
Not for his money? What? I mean,
not at that money, of course. But
Kirk Cousins is 49 years old. He might be.
Nobody's going to trade for. Nobody's going to take on that money. No. That money is, that's a lot of sunk cost. That's nobody's paying that money.
No one.
But I'm just saying, at any price, you might see Kirk Cousins. If he's ever going to be a backup, Kyle Shanahan would probably have him as a backup. And I will say this, if I could throw this in here, I have gone through and I've thought through, and I'm doing a whole breakdown on rebuilding the Niners. Obviously, because that's obviously going to be the theme here in the next month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever.
Basically, from today until the NFL draft, that's the theme.
Yeah, but I'll give you my first 3 steps.
Yeah, take me through it.
I'm just going to go 3 steps, because I've got the entire roster. I'm not going to do the whole roster.
You're written in an encyclopedia. Give me the Cliff Notes.
I'm just going to give you the first 3 steps of my plan to rebuild the 49ers. Okay, the draft plan. You're going to get a top 10 pick by the end of this year. You're going to lose to the Lions. You're going to lose to the Cardinals. You're going to wind up with a top 10 pick. You trade back multiple times, and you value volume of 2026. And you value volume and 2026 draft picks. So with the goal to build a 15-plus man 2025 draft class and set yourself up for a 2026 draft bonanza with additional picks. So I'm taking my pick from 10 and I'm trading it down. I'm going to try if I could literally make 20 trades to get to pick 30, I would make 20 trades. I want to trade back as little as possible, as often as possible, from 10 to roughly 25 to 35 range to start my draft. My first pick's going to be between 25 and 35. And for moving from 10 down there in multiple deals, I want more draft capital for 2015, 2025, and I want more draft picks for 2026. So, in other words, you want the 10th pick in the draft and you got 15, you're offering me your second, your third, and next year's second. Let's talk. You know what I mean? I want next year picks and I want additional picks this year to move down. That's number one. Number two, Brock Purdy is your quarterback. Okay. I'm not going to fuck around with a bunch of stupid ideas and this and that. And I'm going to, no. Brock Purdy is your quarterback. He's your hardest working, smartest offensive player. If you get rid of your hardest working, smartest offensive player at any position, that's not smart. And so getting rid of that player as your quarterback really isn't smart. So Brock Purdy is your quarterback. Build around him. But I do know Brock Purdy. And I do feel like I know him better than anybody else as far as I've been around him. I've talked to him. I think I know how you get the best and the worst out of Brock Purdy. The best way to get Purdy's very best is you have to have a very capable number 2 quarterback. There has to be a guy sitting right there who can take over for him, even if you pay him. After you pay him, you're paying him, right? He's your number 1, you're paying him. But you have to have a guy sitting right there that's good enough to take his job.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the list I have right now.
Healthy competition is always good. It's good in the radio business. It's good
in all business.
It's
America. It's
really
America.
is.
It's capitalism, right?
Healthy competition is good.
You show me a competitive situation that's a healthier situation than a non-competitive situation, almost without exception. Right. So Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, somebody of that caliber, somebody who's quite a bit better than Dobbs or Brandon Allen has to be sitting right there. Right. My quarterback room. What's that?
Still in their mid-20s.
Somebody who can take his job. My quarterback room next year is Purdy, Tanner Mordecai, this player who can take his job. And then I'm even going to take a flyer on a day 3 rookie like a Riley Leonard, Notre Dame, like a Carson Beck, Georgia, like a Tyler Van Dyke, Wisconsin, like a Haynes King, Georgia Tech. A couple of those guys play today, I believe. You might be able to see Haynes King later today. But I'm just saying, what's that? Georgia Tech.
Just keep going.
Yeah, no. So that's my quarterback room next year: Purdy, Mordecai, some veteran, and then I got a day 3 rookie that I'm putting on the practice squad to develop. That's my quarterback room. It's cheap, except for Purdy, obviously. And the veteran that I want is somebody like, as I said, somebody who wants to be as the number 2 to Brock Purdy to learn. Because, I mean, let's face it, Brock Purdy made Sam Darnold more than Kyle Shanahan made Sam Darnold. The whole narrative is that, Darnold went to play for the Niners. He learned from Shanahan, and look what he got from Shanahan. No. He went to play for the Niners, didn't play at all, saw how Brock prepared, and took that preparation with him to Minnesota, and now is surrounded by tons of talent and doing well. So that's really what he got out of it. So lots of quarterbacks should want to play behind Brock Purdy. And also you should want to play behind Brock Purdy because you think that you might be able to beat him out.
Look, let's not cut Kyle out of that conversation either, right? I mean, Kyle is a very good quarterbacks coach. Look what he got out of Nick Mullins. Look what he got out of C.J. Beathard. The blooms did come off those roses, but for a minute, the flowers smelled pretty good on both of those guys.
Greasy, too. I mean, you could probably give Greasy some credit in there, too.
Yes, absolutely. Brian Greasy gets some credit.
Yeah. So that's step 1, trade back, lots of draft capital for 25, additional picks in 26. Pick number 2, Purdy's your quarterback, but you have to have a real number 2 who, because right now he looks at Brandon Allen. There's nobody is threatening Brock Purdy's status. You got to have, he's better when he even admitted it this week. He's like, yeah, when I was a rookie, I just came in, I was just competing my ass off. And that's all I was focused on. Well, you were better then. You're better when you're just competing. And to me, get somebody there that he has to beat out every week. And I think you'll get a better version of Brock Purdy. And then number 3 is the Niners are awful in the low red zone at running the football. And that is a non-starter. And I said it already in this. You cannot get to a Super Bowl if you cannot run inside the 5-yard line to score touchdowns. And to me, that means you need a more powerful back, you need a more powerful fullback, and you need a better center. You have to replace Brendel with a bigger bodied guy. And then I have a plan in the draft and free agency to bring in power in the backfield in the form of JJ Pegues, the Ole Miss defensive tackle, who I think I'm going to play at fullback for Juice. And I'm changing the fullback from what Juice does to what Pegues does, which is Pegues is just this monster you can't move.
Battering ram.
Like this guy, you get first and goal from the 1, you're handing it to JJ Pegues. Okay. And he's just scoring because he's 315 pounds and super powerful and athletic. Okay. So that's my fullback. And in the running back game, I'm saying goodbye to Elijah Mitchell. Obviously I've got McCaffrey coming back. I've got Garendo there. I've got Mason, but Mason's a big back with small back capabilities. I'm calling my buddy Doug Hendrickson and saying, Doug, what do you think of Najee taking a hometown discount to come play for the Niners? And I'm going to go sign Najee, who I love, and I'm going to bring Najee in as my power back, and I'm going to combine. I'll probably trade Mason for he's a restricted free agent, and I'll go with Garendo and CMC and Najee Harris and a new center and JJ Pegues, and we will power your ass from the 5-yard line in. We will take McCaffrey, we'll play them together, we'll throw it to McCaffrey, but we will power Najee Harris behind JJ Pegues and a 320-pound center, and we will power it inside the 5. No more of this pass on 2nd and goal from the 4, pass on 3rd and goal from the 4, 4th and goal from the 4. Let's kick a field goal in a meaningless game. That was the most embarrassing sequence of 49er football of this era, of this regime.
The pass in a goal to go situation, if set up by the other team's fear of you running it down their throat, makes it the easier play. By all means, go ahead, play action the shit out of that. And George Kittle, hey, diddle diddle. I love that. But there was no threat of that, which is why the red zone numbers have absolutely collapsed. The NFL knew the Niners weren't running here. The NFL knew the Niners weren't about to play whip it out and let me show it to you football. They didn't. They couldn't. So that's why everyone in the end zone was smothered at all times. Plus, you got wide receivers who don't separate. So let me tell you, Larry, I love your plan. I think the first 3
and then build up, and the number 4 will be build up the O-line. Build up the O-line.
Well, that's included, I think, in the power football concept.
Yeah.
Step number. I think
you see the direction it's going.
Number 3, absolutely. Big boy trench warfare football is what the Niners need to return to, no doubt.
And people in the chat going, that's old school football. That's not the modern game. Dude, the Eagles just took Mekhi Becton, 370-pound Mekhi Becton, who was a failed offensive tackle for the Jets. They're playing him at right guard next to Lane Johnson. And if you've watched the NFL like I watch the NFL, which is I watch the All-22 of a couple teams every week, I watched the Eagles offensive line the last month. They are dominating in the second half to the point where it's like, you can't stop it. It's like you got Lane Johnson at right tackle and Mekhi Becton at right guard and Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson on the left side, Cam Jurgens in the middle. Philly, people talking about Detroit. No, it's going to be Philly or Green Bay, I think, going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Now, we'll see. I've been wrong before, but Philly's offensive line is monster.
People are tracking Saquon Barkley's season. He gets better as the game goes along. Jeez, I wonder why. Because that offensive line gets better as the game goes along.
The offensive line has been the theme of the year It's been the theme of the year. I mean, think about it. Kansas City's awesome. Best offensive interior in the game. Detroit's maybe the best young team in the game. Best line across the board. Buffalo's had an amazing year. Allen's going to win the MVP. He's the least sacked quarterback in the league. Baltimore's got a big physical offensive line. Philly's got a big physical offensive line. The Rams have, some people are saying the Rams have passed the Niners. There were people in the chat earlier, oh, the Rams are now the division bully. Well, what have the Rams done? The Rams have upgraded their offensive line.
That's
so. And what did Kyle Shanahan and Chris Forster tell us? You know what? We think that we can get an offensive lineman in any round, and that's why we believe that we're going to go Ricky Pearsall over Zach Frazier. Well,
yeah, believe me,
Frazier's awesome.
Could have gotten Ricky Pearsall in any round too. Believe me.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. So, I mean, it is time to rebuild that offensive line with some bullies. Invest in your offensive line and invest in power football. You have speed, and you're always going to have speed with Kyle Shanahan. He loves speed, speed to the edges, but they need more speed at wide receiver. They need more speed at tight end. They need more speed at running back, and they also have to have a power element to their game offensively.
Well, and look, for the person who's like, if you are down on old school football, why do you watch the sport? Old school football is one of the only true truths in sports that carries year after year. Blocking and tackling. That's all it is, kids. Really. Everything else just sells tickets. Blocking and tackling. Blocking and tackling. Every game is decided on those two things first. God bless Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Blocking and tackling is what they are fantastic at. And you want to, how about this? I think C.J. Stroud is one of the more impressive young quarterbacks in the NFL. He hadn't done shit this year because his offensive line sucks. So there, if you do not have protection,
it's hard. I mean, here's the other thing. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. That's another thing. It's like, guys, this whole Brock's not it. Because Brock backslid a little bit, because the cast surrounding him backslid a little bit, it's not a straight line. It's not a straight line to the top. I mean, but Brian Billick, who knows a lot more football than any of us and a lot more football than any of these Niner content creator people, brought up a point years ago, and it's so true. And that is the hardest thing to evaluate in the NFL is the quarterback versus what's going on around the quarterback. And he's so right. It's so right. Cause if Jalen Hurts looked terrible last year in the playoffs against Tampa Bay. They looked bad. He's running for his life. He didn't look good. All of a sudden they dumped their coordinator on offense. They dumped their coordinator on defense. They got some new players. They changed things around. Now they've got Barkley and a power run game. Now he doesn't have to do quite as much. Now here we are a year later, and he looks a whole lot better. So, and you can say the same for a lot of quarterbacks. Brock Purdy would look better if he had more speed, if he had a better line, if he had better weapons this year. The other thing is, a lot of people are like, well, last year he had awesome weapons, and this year, he doesn't have those weapons. It's not that he doesn't have those weapons. It's that those weapons are all still on the roster making the money that they made. So they've got replacement level weapons behind those guys. So now he's throwing a Ronnie Bell, and he's being protected by Jalen Moore, who I love, but I mean, he's not Trent Williams. So I'm just saying, it's like a lot of people are like, well, Brock's regressed. He would be better if they didn't have these weapons and had other weapons. Then they could afford to pay them. Now he's got really expensive weapons that are hurt. And so the guys behind him, because they haven't drafted well, are not very good.
Yeah.
So that's really the fall off. It's not that it's not just that he doesn't have Ayuk. It's that the Niners behind Ayuk don't have anybody that's a reasonable facsimile of Ayuk. And
Larry,
so it's a major step backwards.
I hear that the Duchess has arisen. I hear my family already making the sort of footsteps on my ceiling here that says, Daddy, come up and make us breakfast. So I got to get going. I'd like to leave you and everyone with this. And it's a little bit of a cautionary tale, though, to the first step of your plan. And I'm seeing this coming. The NFL draft is a numbers game. How many guys are actually good enough to play in this league? And in what rounds can you actually find them? Can you stumble onto that? The world missed George Kittle. He's to the Niners in the 5th and you drafted a Hall of Famer. Good luck with that. NIL, I think, is about to radically change college football and really damage NFL depth. So I got an example. Indiana has an All-American defensive end, Mikhail Kamara. Kamara was a day 3 guy who was going to show you the promise of productivity because he's an All-American. He's 6'1", which means he doesn't have that typical body type that goes in the first couple of rounds. So he is the guy that you find in the late round odd lot bin.
Yep.
He's coming back to Bloomington. And an awful lot of guys that didn't have the body type but had the skill are going to, without a doubt, make more money staying in college than entering the NFL draft.
It's not going to have any impact, though, because they're all coming out eventually. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of what year.
They do all come out eventually, but I think as NIL is figuring out who it is, what you're going to have is a little bit of a numbers game where if you are good enough to really be drafted in day 3, you can stay in college, bank 6 figures, and see if you can position yourself for a day 1 or 2 pick in the future, which is going to leave later rounds to guys who are saying, oh man, there's still too much talent on this college roster. So I am going to throw my hat into the NFL ring because really good guys are staying in college, which means the NFL is going to get more projects in later rounds. This comes back to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan being successful with early round picks. Early round picks have always had premium on them. I think they're about to have even a more premium on them because there's going to be a massive fall off 6th, 7th rounder. And look, there will be standouts. There will be exceptions to the rules, but I believe that the NFL draft is about to lose a considerable amount of day 3 value. I really do. I think the NIL,
if it happens, it would happen, there could be a draft, like the 2025 draft could be thinner, or the 2026 draft could be thinner. But eventually, that's really all we're talking about. We're talking about one draft because there might be a draft where you're right, where guys go, you know what? I'm not going to go be a 7th round pick. I'll take the NIL money. I'll stay in. So there might be a year or two where the draft is thinner, and it may be this year. And then, and you may be right. Ultimately, it's the guys are all going to come out in whatever order they come out in. And I don't know. I think if I'm an NFL general manager, I don't hate the NIL because I want a more polished football player entering the draft. Yeah. I'd rather have a guy. And I love Kamara. I think he's a really good day 3 pick. But he's 257 pounds. He's 6'1". So, but I mean, who cares? Who cares? Because, guess what? 6'1's really close to 6'2". And guess what? 257 pounds is really close to 265 pounds. And there's an awful lot of great defensive ends that are about 6'2", 6'3", 265 pounds. So I'm not going to freaking lose my mind because some awesome defensive end in college is 6'1" and change, 257. But the NFL scouts typically do. So you're right to state that. Let's put our supers out and we'll jump. Kyle Silvas is $4.99 just for the hell of it. Merry Christmas, Kyle.
Word, Kyle.
Propa says he's trying to get a max contract. He can show up to work like we all do. Stop babying these athletes. You're going to turn the NFL into the NBA.
Wait a minute.
It's not about babying. He's talking about Brock.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
He's trying to get a max contract. That first of all, hey, Propa, know the difference between the NBA and NFL. That's an NBA term.
Right.
There is no max fucking contract in the NFL.
There are 82 games. There are 82 NBA games. There's back-to-back games. There's, I do believe that load management is partially true, partially an illusion. There's a lot of bullshit and babying that goes on in the NBA.
Of course.
But there's wear and tear in football.
I mean, Steph's not going to play. Steph's not playing the next game.
Football cannot be compared to any other sport because in the vast majority of the NBA season, everyone will walk off the court as healthy as they walked on it. In the vast majority of every NFL game played, there is a career-altering injury. There is a level of athletic attrition that is a reality in football that is not a reality in the NBA.
This is the way it needs to be stated.
Fewer than 4 years.
Every time you play football, it could be the last time you play football.
Right. No one says that about basketball.
Nobody's
Every
going
time you play
Steph
about
is,
it.
this is it. This is the last game for Steph. No,
But
it's
could
not.
happen. Could happen.
But it's not about babying guys. It's about being smart. If you lose Brock Purdy at the end of the year, so be it, right? Because most likely that means you're playing in the Super Bowl. Like if they had lost Brock Purdy for this year on Super Bowl Sunday, just that's the way it goes. It's the way it goes. But you're playing for a Super Bowl. You're playing for nothing now. So you're playing for nothing. So no, you don't put him out there and behind some backup offensive line. And here's the other question I would have. If it makes perfect sense to everybody when Kyle Shanahan says next August, yeah, Brock's going to play as long as Trent plays, and when we take Trent out, we're going to take Brock out. If that reasoning makes sense next August, then how does playing Brock in real games behind Austin Pleasance make sense this year? It doesn't. It doesn't. Stop being a suck up. Not everything these guys do is right. Tribe, Law of All already shopping for Quinn Ewers jersey. Quinn Ewers is a 5-star high school prospect from Southlake, Texas, outside of Dallas, who's plays for the Longhorns, is going to be in the draft, probably going to be in the 3rd round, maybe the 2nd round. Was a 5-star guy with a great arm, a little on the smaller side. Corey Wiggs, Krug, can you share the Cam Newton video about Brock being paid? Love to hear you and Damon's perspective. I never saw the Cam Newton video. I will look for it.
I don't know anything about it other than I can guarantee you he's wearing a scarecrow's hat and looks ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's like, Cam, what do you know about it? What do you know about it, Cam? Digital Drew, are there still some unanswered questions on Purdy at this point? If so, don't sign him. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, seriously, if you need Brock Purdy to show you something, if you're the 49ers at this point, then you probably don't have the right guy.
$60 million a year contract, that's for sure.
Well, he also shouldn't be your guy. I mean, if you don't know what you got right now, and you're that worried about it, he's probably not the right guy. Mark Graves, member for 30 months. Mark, good to see you. Merry Christmas. He said Kyle's game plan is like a cartoon background. It's the same scene. Shaking my head. Oh man. Fuji Simeon says, here you go, Damon. Thoughts on Cal quarterback transfer to IU? Yeah, you saw that. Fernando Mendoza is now a Indiana Hoosier. And I'll say this, kid's got all kinds of moxie.
He does. He was the best part of Cal's offense this year. Jillian went to Cal. I just said, hey, honey, you don't have to stop rooting for him. He's now in a place that will really take advantage of his talent. I love it. I love it. Indiana has signed their quarterback who's got multiple seasons left. He's got years of eligibility still left. And they're bringing back an All-American linebacker and an All-American defensive end, both guys who were day 3 NFL draft potential, but they ain't leaving. So, and I'm saying there's going to be guys who are All-American level and college talents staying in college.
I don't like it. Here's why. I'm watching Georgia the other day. Benjamin Urasek makes a great catch across the middle. That's Stanford's best player. He's now playing for Georgia, and he's like one of 3 good tight ends that they have. I mean, you know what I mean? He's just like a guy. And Fernando Mendoza is like Cal's leader, and now he's bailing to go play for Indiana. I don't know. I don't love it because to me, it's just like, it sends all the wrong messages.
I don't like it either, Larry, but it's the world. It's the world that
but don't you think it's like anything else? It's like, Damon, do you tell your kids, your kids are pretty young, but like I tell my kids, go to school, try hard, not go to school, try hard. And if the teacher, if you don't like the teacher, we'll transfer you to a new.
I'm sorry, I got a thing I got to go handle. I'll be right back. Okay, I'll be right back.
But I mean, to me, it sends the wrong message. The transfer portal is like, hey, you know what? You're competing against somebody else for a position. They beat you out. Quit. Go to another school. For every one person that's a really great decision for, there's like 4 other guys that should have stayed and fought it out. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, do you tell your kids, hey, go out there and compete for a spot on the football team, a spot on the baseball team, a spot on the basketball team. And if Bobby beats you out, quit and we'll transfer you to a different school. No, 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 and no. That's not the right message. The message is fight it out. Get in there and be better. Now, I get it if you're like, on some track where you want to play pro ball and, you only have one opportunity. You don't want to waste your opportunity. Okay. For how many people fit that description as opposed to how many people fit the description of, you know what? I just don't like the coach. I don't want to play for him anymore. I don't like my position coach. I don't want to play for him anymore. I got beat out by a better guy. And there's somebody else and another recruit's coming in next year. I mean, okay. You can sit there. You're going to run every time there's competition in your life. You're going to go work for a company and they hire somebody who's also pretty smart at your position, or you're just going to quit. Is that I'm going to quit. I'm going to go work for another company because now we have a real talented person in my department. I don't know. I think it sends the wrong message. I understand the transfer portal. I understand how we got here. I think there's some real positives to it, but I think it sends a really bad message that if everything in your life doesn't go perfectly according to your plan, quit and start fresh. That's bad.
No,
That's bad, right? That's not good.
I don't like it either. I think that the transfer portal is ridiculous. So Jim Larinaga just quit Miami. He's ahead, and he said that after going to the Final Four, he had 8 players hit the transfer portal. You're in the Final Four, and you got 8 players looking to transfer from your program.
And you're at the University of Miami. It's not like you're Podunk State. I mean, that's a major program in a major conference.
Yeah, in a
great school
where you can have an awful lot of fun too. Like it's a destination,
right? I mean, if that many people want to leave University of Miami, how many people want to leave? I don't know, James Madison in Virginia somewhere. I mean, how many people want to leave? UC Davis. I just don't like. Is there something wrong with the big fish in the small pond? There have been guys who went to small schools and made it to the pros and had great careers. You don't have to say, hey, Cal, here's the bird. Hey, Stanford, here's the bird. I'm going to go play at Georgia. I mean, what? And I don't know. I the whole thing. Brock Bowers is a great player in the pros now. He probably should have played at Stanford or Cal because he's from Napa. Instead, he goes and plays for Georgia. I mean, was he good at Georgia? Hell yeah, he was great at Georgia, first round draft pick. But I'm just saying you
can go to college wherever you want. You can go to college wherever you want, but to go to like 5 colleges. I mean, there's dudes who are entering the transfer portal for their 8th time because now they're not even counting JUCO years anymore against eligibility.
Dylan Gabriel.
We are about to have a college football landscape dotted with 26, 27, 28-year-old dudes hanging on to their sad football dreams. And it's going to be,
oh, I know.
Yeah, it's going to be a little weird. It's going to be a little weird. For sure.
And John Lynch was talking on KMBR last week, and he's like, in the old days when we were looking at personnel, if a guy transferred, we'd like stop the meeting and be like, why did he transfer? And what's the story behind it? And this and that. Now it's like a kid transfers, and you don't even bat an eye because did you hear this stat this week? 26% of all college football players are in the transfer portal.
It's 1 out of every 4 kids. It's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Well, and here's the thing. If this had been offered years ago, had this been the norm, I just think that society marched in a different direction and it wouldn't happen. Generation total pussy, give it to me as quickly and easily. Like I was telling the boys the other day, I was like, so when Daddy was a little boy, his favorite show was Knight Rider. And Daddy would have to wait a week between episodes, and if I wanted to watch another Knight Rider episode, I had to wait until next Thursday night at 8 p.m. to watch it. And
Kit did not talk to you every day. It was a weekly conversation with Kit.
My kids didn't even freaking understand. What do you mean? I just can't watch anything I want whenever I want to watch it. It's not just all there for it. No, you used to have to be patient. You used to have to let things develop. Generation microwave it and serve it to me right now is the worst generation to have introduced the concept of Ali Oxenfree transfer portal too, and they will. We have a level of kids that is just looking for the path of least resistance at all times. It's going to hurt coaching. You can't yell at a kid in basketball or football practice anymore because, oh, coach hurt my feelings, I'm going to transfer. That's just,
well, how many people
a lot of things about the world I don't like.
Look at all those football sports century pieces or Hall of Fame NFL speeches. And it's like, you know what? I had, all these guys are great athletes at the youth level. And then they run into some adversity, generally at the college level. And if there's no adversity anymore, it's like, if you just like, oh, I had some adversity, but I stamped that out. It's like, I don't know. Adversity is what makes you. Life isn't about what happens. Life's about your reaction to what happens. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that whole message is lost. I mean,
who you are. Well, everything is going great. Doesn't tell me a thing about you.
Right.
Who you are when everything is working against you is who you are.
Right.
That's who you are.
Right. And also you become better and stronger as a person. You build up resiliency by overcoming trials and tribulations in your life. We all have things in our life that did not go well that helped us get to where we're at. And to me, if you never have that, it's like child-proofing life. You can't child-proof life. You don't want them to put their finger in the socket. You don't want them to hit the edge of the table. So you put a little soft thing on the table. But guess what? You're doing your kid a disservice if you try to keep them in bubble wrap forever. And that's kind of what we're doing in this transfer portal to some degree. Fuji Simeon says, Larry, you called it with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams looks bad. I know it's early, but he does not look good. You were right, Larry. Even if you are a Hello Kitty, I mean a Wildcat. There you go. Fuji.
Let me tell you this, Caleb
Wildcat
Williams,
shots.
I'm not ready to give up on Caleb Williams. There's a lot I don't like. There is some that I do like, including this fact, which is non-disputable. This year, in a terrible year, where an offensive coordinator has been fired, a head coach has been fired, a lot of things have gone wrong, as Caleb Williams has absolutely hit a rookie wall, and it's all bad now. He has the third most passing yards in a single season in Chicago Bears history right now. If that's not singularly,
that's more of a statement about the Bears. Exactly. But, I mean, the Bears are really bad. But I will say this about Caleb. I mean, the Bears have had a rough quarterback lineage, right?
Forever.
Forever. But I'll say this about Caleb. He's going to get better.
Yep.
The things that bother me about Caleb are him feeling sorry for himself. A lot of the stuff where it's like he's on the sideline. It's like, dude, I mean, you're supposed to be the leader. It's like you can't lead if you're kind of a pussy. And he's there's something about him that's just kind of pussy.
Look at all the times that he was, Lincoln Riley isn't going to send any players out to talk to any media after this USC loss. I mean, like that's it's generation overprotected.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, and dude, you're not the first quarterback to experience adversity. I mean, suck it up. He looks like such a child out there. Fuji Simeon says, well, we have the UFL to look forward to for the offseason, the UFL. Okay, I will not be watching UFL. Michael Alanis says, Larry Damon, I'd like to move on from CMC. I'm afraid we've seen the best of him. Trade CMC to Denver for some day 2 or 3 picks. Draft Ashton Gianti at 9-10. Sign Javonte Williams. We'll have the best running back room. It's an interesting concept of, how do the Niners go forward this offseason? How do they kind of rebuild their thing? Do they start to look to trade some guys? Is there a market for any of these guys? I don't know if they have that. I kind of question whether the 49ers have this caliber of creativity and relative coldness. They seem like they're in love with CMC. And like they like love their players in a way that it's almost not, it doesn't enable them to move off. But I kind of agree. I CMC at best is going to be damaged goods going forward. If you could get a pick for CMC, and Denver makes sense because he's from Colorado. I would do it. I would do it. I mean, I wouldn't give him away for a 3rd round pick, but if I could get a decent pick for CMC, I'd consider doing it just because you got to start thinking that way.
If he's half the player he used to be, that's still 10 touchdowns next year. I'll take those.
Yeah.
I think
Ashton Gianti is pretty special too.
If you really, really, truly wanted to say who are the 2 players on this team that have established themselves as highly paid, could trade them, get big back value, Nick Bosa and George Kittle. And I wouldn't trade either of those guys. But that's where the conversation starts. Tough conversation. And let me tell you, Larry, I don't want to bring this up now. No one even wants to think about this. It is time for the Golden State Warriors to think about trading Steph Curry.
Oh, it's never happened.
I know.
It's never going to happen.
It's time to think about it.
It's never going to happen. You don't have to trade everybody. You can just, but I know what you're saying. I feel bad because, man, there were people like a year ago who were like, oh, Steph's going to play 7 more years, 5 more years. It's like, dude, you're nuts. You have no idea what you're talking
HRs
about.
aren't. Hell no, Damon. Blasphemous. I know it's blasphemous. I don't mean to be blasphemous during the holiday season, but I'm going to tell you, and I don't know if it can even happen with first level, second level matching salaries right now. If Sam Presti would give me 8 first rounders and the damaged goods that is Chet Holmgren for Steph Curry,
where would you want to go? Garden?
Huh?
Where would you want to go? The Garden? If you were Steph and you were going to leave the Warriors, where would you go? Charlotte?
Oklahoma City.
Is it all? It's all about just get him on the best team, or does he want to go to a certain spot? The Knicks. I think the Knicks. How about if he ever won a title for the Knicks? So the Knicks have a pretty good team. If you could somehow get Steph Curry on the Knicks and they could win a title, that would probably be great for the league. And if you could get a bunch in return, I mean, you got to get a bunch in return if you're moving Steph. Fuji Simeon says, hope you had fun times with family. Any truth to the rumors that Brian Griese might leave to take the OC position with Michigan or another college or NFL team? I think he's interviewing for it. I don't know if he will leave, but he did play quarterback there. Fuji Simeon says, 13 says, what would be an acceptable deal for Dre? 2 years for 20 or 24 million. Average would be 10 to 12 million per year. How much guaranteed? First year or both? You know what? That's a Lombardi question. I care about my own money. I don't really care about their money. I mean, I don't know.
Here's what I know.
I wish I could tell you. I don't know that.
The NFL makes enough money to where it's ridiculous that we're ever arguing over who should and shouldn't get money in this league.
Dre Greenlaw needs to get paid.
Everybody awesomely.
Yeah, Dre needs to get paid. He needs to get paid commensurate with the top tier inside linebackers. Even if it's a short-term deal, he's got to get paid. You got to take care of that guy. Fuji Simeon says, will you two do Sam's Chowderhouse giveaways and raffles?
I think we need to coordinate with Paul for like a meetup or something, Larry, in the off season. I think that we need to have people to come join.
Springtime meetup?
Yeah.
Maybe a springtime meetup on the patio, something like that. I think we could do
I love
that. It. Fuji Simeon says, we got that one. Rick Salazar's in the house. He says, new member. Rick, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Rick, good to see you.
Rick.
And we got this one from Fuji. Says, Larry, my fellow Gen Z epitomized the transfer portal. Look at how short we stay at a job before moving on to other greener pastures, i.e. new jobs. Yeah, I mean, it is true. And it's like, I'm on LinkedIn, right? It's like, it's like kind of my professional network of people that I have on LinkedIn. And sometimes people used to leave jobs, like, let's say on average, maybe every 3-4 years. Now I feel like with some of the younger people, they have new positions like every 9 months, every year and a half,
especially here in the Bay Area where so many careers are tied directly to tech, and as tech evolves, jobs evolve, and you get new opportunities. It happens a lot here in the Bay Area, but yeah, sticking it out.
My dad worked 38 years for the city attorney's office in San Francisco. 38 years for one. And I remember, the idea of like, I may leave this station and go work at that. He's, I don't know if I would do that. It's
right.
like,
look at how adverse Radnich used to be to that. Radnich would be like, if the guy's worked for more than 3 stations, he must suck. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. When you hear of a player like Deontay Johnson is played on 4 different NFL teams this year. that's hurt his value. That's hurt his rep. And maybe nothing's wrong there, but he's played for 4 teams this year. And anytime you look at somebody in baseball, basketball, and like somebody's like, hey, this guy's played for a bunch of teams. You know what happens? You get that guy in your team, and after like 6-7 weeks, you're like, I kind of understand why this guy gets moved a lot, because
remember, this is a conversation.
He's good enough. Like a Kelly Oubre is a perfect example. It's like he's good enough to be in the league and has highlight reel stuff that make other teams go, yeah, we'd like Kelly Oubre. But then he's also such a freaking moron, and his shot selection is so off and so badly flawed that you watch him for a few weeks, or like D'Lo, like D'Angelo Russell, same thing, and you're just like, dude, I don't care if I get what I get, pennies on the dollar. Get this guy the fuck out of here. Right.
This is the same conversation we had about Steve Wilkes. And look, Steve Wilkes after the fact might not have been nearly the problem that we thought in the moment. But Steve Wilkes, again, if you are a great coach, you have not coached for 15 teams. Great coaches don't have 15 different career stops
in 17 years.
Exactly.
Or, I don't care. I don't care what sport we're talking about, Damon. If you told me there was a great talk show host and he's worked for 17 different radio stations in the last 25 years, I'm like, what's wrong with him? Is he drunk? Is he a bad guy in the office? Is he, what's his issue? Because that's a lot of moving.
Right. Hey, Larry, by the way, thank you, Tommy Huxley. 70-30 Lions. We suck. I get it.
70-3. And then we have this last one. He says, thanks, Kevin, Larry, for the recommendation. I bought the white hoodie. Oh, nice.
Oh, there you go. Fuji. Well done. Well done. Get that gear. And I've never seen anyone check in from Cuba before. Let me get this.
What was it?
Oh, I got it right here. Cuba. Hello, Damon and Larry. Much love from Cuba. Yoel, thank you. Much love to you. Appreciate you watching. Spread us around the island. Really appreciate it.
You know what you see a lot in Cuba? Old American cars.
Oh, totally. They got all the classic cars. It was really easy to film Godfather 2 scenes in Cuba because all the cars were there.
Joe G says, steal Jim Schwartz from Cleveland and fire Nick Sorensen. I got to go because Nick Sorensen's talking later today, and I'm thinking about being there for it against my better discretion.
Hey, thanks to everyone for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Let's see, Larry, we got a Monday night football game, which means Wake Up will be back on the air Monday morning, Wednesday and Friday next week as well here on YouTube. And we got a Monday night football game. So I will be doing a watch party. Nobody better get freaking hurt during this game. Or again, this will not be second guessing. If anyone gets hurt in this game, we will just probably replay today's show for you after it, because we've given the 49ers a lesson in chess. If they insist on playing checkers, good luck with that.
Let us know how it goes. That does it for us. Thanks to all of you guys. Thanks to Sam's Chowder House. Once again, check out Sam's Chowder House. If you haven't been down to Sam's Chowder House, you will not be disappointed. It's right there in Half Moon Bay. You're looking at the patio. Now you're looking at the inside. The food is spectacular. The view is equal to the food. And you're just going to love it. It's an experience. It's a really fun place. The smell coming out of the kitchen with the fire and the seafood cooking, and it's absolutely glorious. And it's a great spot. And then you can sit on the patio. You can actually take your shoes and socks off and walk down onto the sand and dip your feet in the water. And it's quite a Northern California deal where Half Moon Bay is a jewel. It's like where agriculture meets the coast. It's a very rare kind of spot, and it's very cool. So check out Sam's Chowder House. You're going to love it. Thanks to Paul Shankman and his wife for sponsoring our show. And that's going to do it for us. It's time for me to get down to Santa Clara and then start looking for some football guys. You know, what I'm looking for here in week 17, week 18, who shows up and plays with some fire. I'd like to find some real football guys. You know what I'm saying, Damon?
I know what you're saying, exactly what you're saying there, Trent. If you're going to go to Sam's, I'm just saying, hop in the Miata. If it's a nice day, you want that top down. You don't need a lot in the trunk because you're not going to bring much home. No doggy bags. You're going to eat it all right there at Sam's. And of course, it's all pescatarian and vegetarian. And Trey and I, we stay away from red meat. And this is what we like to do. And try the minestrone.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. The road to the Super Bowl starts in my Miata.